And we are live. And yes, people, I know I am on about 30 seconds early, but I was just so excited. I could not wait to jump on. So, hello, homemakers, and everyone in the chat, or if you're watching on the replay. If you ever wondered how to write a book, where authors get their ideas, or what really happens to get pen to paper, you are in the right place because tonight we are going to welcome my friend and a writer extraordinaire, Lola Schaefer, to the show. Lola is a children's book author, teacher, and speaker, and she's going to tell us about her writing journey, the importance of reading and writing to children's language development, and she'll also have some advice for aspiring writers. But before we get into that, this video is sponsored by Apron Diva, my online apron boutique. Pretty and practical, we believe that an apron can be a homemaker's best accessory. Visit us at www.aprondiva.com. And tonight's featured apron is this one. We call it the Daisy. And we are welcoming in spring with this nice bright and green. So if you like spring or anything green, this is the one for you. So use the checkout code Daisy10 at checkout, and you can get it for 10% off. Just look at those beautiful little daisies all over it and on the bodice. So I think this will be perfect for spring. You will love it, love it, love it. So with no further ado, let's welcome Lola to the platform. Hooray!
Yay, I am so happy to be here. Denise, remember when we used to be in a writer's group? It seems like we're doing that tonight.
It does. I was telling Will earlier, I said, Lola's going to be on the show tonight. And I thought, oh, I should go and find my book, the one about the turtle. Then I thought, wait, nope. I should find the one about, the Vietnam one, about the candlelight.
Yes.
And I thought, nope. I'm going to just let her show the ones that she wants to show. But ladies, this is my good friend, Lola Schaefer. And we did used to be in a writer's group together. I guess they could say we made our bones together. Only you made a lot more than I did. I tell you what, you have written so many books, I can't even keep up.
Well, as I recall, I learned a lot of my writing lessons, not just with you, but from you, from watching how your process, how you attacked it. I was always amazed how you set yourself a goal and how you attained it as a writer. It was very impressive.
Well, thank you. And you know what? Most of these people on here don't even know I've written books because I don't talk about it very much. I do have some of the ones that I've written that they can find on Amazon in the description box. I thought, well, I'll just do that. But I don't talk about it very much. It was like it was another life. So, okay, let's see. So everyone is just saying hello. And people are asking how Blue Skies is feeling. Last week she had a bad case of food poisoning, so she'll answer all of those things. But Lola, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in.
Good.
So just ask you, have you always wanted to be a writer? Like, did you want to be a writer when you were a little girl? Like, I knew I wanted to be a nurse or a librarian always.
Right. No, I think from a very early age, I wanted to be a teacher. Because, back in the dark ages, when I was a child, we never met any authors like boys and girls do in schools today, if they're fortunate enough. And I kind of thought all the books were already written and all the authors were dead. And we were just going to keep rereading those books over and over again. I had no idea that people were writing books at the time that I was reading other books. So I never even thought it was a possibility.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
But you know what? You're right, too. I never thought about that either. Do you remember Sharon Banks from the city schools in Fort Wayne?
Yes.
She used to always say, if you can see it, you can be it. And you were able to become an author, even though you didn't see one. But people seeing you today, you will inspire some others to become authors. So, okay. Well, tell us about your newest book. And I believe it is Lift, Mix, Fling. Machines can't do anything. Like I said.
Okay, let me grab it.
Let's see that one.
Okay. So, quite a few years ago, and this is kind of a lesson about the publishing business, at least for people who write for children and then those people who decide to write picture books. I sold this text plus a companion text all about light to HarperCollins probably now 8.5 years ago.
8.5
And
years ago.
yes, and my editor is superb. She's also the publisher. And she just knew that she wanted to wait until she found just the right illustrator that would elevate my words, make this a book that hopefully might get some great reviews, win a few awards, etc. But most importantly, that the art would complement the text so much and add a layer of energy.
Mhm.
And so I would email her like every year, have we found someone yet? And she'd write back sheepishly, no, but I really am looking, Lola, I really am. And so then one day she sent me the art from Jane Jiang, who is the illustrator. And I just thought, oh my gosh, his style is really going to add so much interest to this book. So I'll just open to a random page, but you can
Oh
see
my.
my text is simple. It is a rhyming text. I don't usually write in rhyme,
No.
but both of these books about machines and light are in rhyme. So I'll show you his art on another page randomly here. He's just done a marvelous job all the way around.
Love it.
So this is a book that talks a lot about simple machines at the beginning and then just goes lightly into compound machines near the end. It's got Backmatter, so this is strictly a nonfiction book.
Mhm.
And it has to remain factual because of that. And then most nonfiction books in the back have a page of Backmatter, which this one does.
You're going to have to explain what Backmatter is.
I will. As it turns out, what you want to do in a nonfiction book for children is you always want to give them a little bit something extra at the end. It's kind of like a little launch pad. So if this book intrigued you and you care about machines, well, go ahead and read the end paper. And so in this end paper, it was interesting because right now in publishing, we have a lot of graphic books. And
Mhm.
graphic books rely heavily on illustration and sometimes use speech bubbles or captions to carry the narrative. So she said, do something that we can use a graphic. And she just wanted the basics of machines. So we talk about work and energy and force and simple machines. And then we have a compound machine at the bottom. So Backmatter adds another layer of learning, another layer of interest, but it also is saying very politely to the reader, here's an invitation. Why don't you go find more on this subject? And that's what we want. We want one book to spur reading of another and another and another.
Oh, I love that. I just love that. And I like the fact that this is a nonfiction book, but it just looks so much fun. And doesn't it fall under that STEM category when people are
Yes.
trying to?
Right, STEM and STEAM. STEAM adds the art
Mhm.
layer to STEM, which I really appreciate when they do that in schools. So yes, this definitely does fall into that category as a STEM or STEAM book. And I'm in love with it. I really am. When they sent the F and Gs, and for those of you that don't know what that is, it's F is for folded and G is for gathered. And so in the production of a book to the author and illustrator, they send you a sample of the pages. It has no cover. And they are just folded in such a way that you can see the pagination. You can turn the page and everything. Well, when we got the F and Gs, it was more or less a square book. So when I actually got my box of books last week and I saw that it was this shape, then I was real, yes, just like your folded paper. Exactly, exactly. Only it's a little bit trickier because if you drop them and spill them, it's very difficult to figure out how to put those F and Gs back together. So no, I'm super pleased with everything about it.
Okay, so we had a question by Nina about Backmatter, but you've already explained that. So now we've got that one covered.
Good.
Then we've got one, if you only have ideas for books, but they're really good ideas, how do you pitch it to agents or query publishers?
Oh, great question. If you have been published at least 2, 3, 4 times and your books have been highly successful, then an agent or an editor would be interested in a pitch. But if you're so far an unproven talent, then they want to see the entire manuscript, because you might pitch something really wonderful, but how do they know that you have the skill and the craft to actually turn that into a great book? So it just depends where you are on your journey. And pitches are short. In fact, is they're doing them on Twitter now, and they have these pitch events for both agents and editors. But again, they're really not going to contact someone unless they can look on Amazon or Google your name, see a web page, and see that you do have a little bit of a publishing track record. So pitches are typically anywhere for a picture book. They are 1 to 3 sentences long, and I can tell you a trick about a pitch. When
Oh,
you open up a book, this is called the flap copy. So like if you're in a bookstore, you might read what it says about the book there to see if it's something of interest to you for your child or your grandchild or your niece or somebody. So they like to have the catchiness and the energy in the pitch of some of the jacket copy or the flap copy. So if you read and type a bunch of these up, you kind of start to hear that and internalize that rhythm, that cadence, and the pattern of what would go into a pitch.
okay. Like that. Well, we got I just put a little note up here that it starts out as a manuscript and it's not a book until it's published. So I
Right.
just wanted people to get that. And then we had a question here. Okay, we got that one. And there was another one. Oh, here it is. Do you have to have good grammar in order to write a book?
Oh, that's kind of an interesting question, because when I first started writing picture books, okay, I should go backward. When I was in elementary school, I got 100% or an A plus on every single grammar test. But back in the dark ages, the way they taught us grammar was we'd spend a whole week on prepositions and we'd take a test on prepositions, and it would all be done in isolation.
Mhm.
And then the next week, maybe we would do something on adverbs and we'd take a test on Friday. So it was just like, drill and test, drill and test. But when I started to write, I wasn't sure. Should there be a semicolon here? I'm not sure. Do I need a comma here? And so what did I do? I went and picked up books, and I found similar sentences, which I would call mentor sentences, that had the structure of what I was working on. And I actually had to teach myself grammar. Now, there are some great books out there. And actually, you don't need a book for adults. They have some amazing, cool books at like Barnes and Noble that teach grammar to kids who are like in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, that tell you everything you need to know. And they're fun to read, and they have lots of examples in them. So it's one thing to know all the parts of speech and what they do. It's another thing to know how to apply that to create meaning and the exact meaning of what you're picturing in your head. And I'm not the only one that says this. A bunch of us authors at different conferences over the years have discussed this. And not only that, but we laugh because our nieces, nephews, grandchildren in high school are learning things in grammar we have never heard in our entire lives. And we don't even want to learn it. And we're thinking, I hope there's some practical application for some of this.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you say that, because I was talking to one of my grandchildren, one of my granddaughters, and I was trying to teach her how to conjugate the verb to be. And I thought, do they even teach how to conjugate
Yeah, I
verbs?
don't know. I'm sure some do. I know that some teachers still teach diagramming simply because
That's
they,
how I learned it, and it
right?
works.
I know. And simply because they want them to understand the different parts of a sentence and how they all work together. And other teachers think that's archaic and they would never teach it. So I think it just really varies greatly from city to city, school to school. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got another question, and Blue Skies is my admin, so a lot of times she'll put the questions up for other people. So don't just think it's just her asking all the questions. And when you hear little beings from time to time, she's sending me a message or a picture, or she'll also be the one who does the that pulls the names from the comments and all of that for the winners. So
Oh, fun.
that's what that is.
It sounds like we all need an admin in our lives.
I could use a wife, actually. But here we go. So, is it difficult to find an illustrator for your book?
Everybody asks that question, and it's a great question. And no, it isn't, because you're not allowed to do that. So if you write this great text and now you think, well, I can't send it to an agent or an editor until I have it illustrated. No, 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 do not do that, because think about an editor and his or her role in this whole process. You sell your words to a publishing house, and then they have files of art, portfolios of art. And they go through that. It's their job, and it's their intuition. It's their area of craft, their savviness at this point. And they usually find 2, 3, 4. And as I told you a few minutes ago with my book, or it takes a few years to find someone. And what they do at that point is, if they have purchased your words, they are kind enough and courteous enough that they usually put a list together of 3 or 4 illustrators, and they send them to you in an email and say, have a look at their portfolios and kind of rank them.
Mm-hmm.
Who would be your first choice, your second choice, your third choice? Now, in the case of Lift, Mix, and Fling, my machine book, no, she found James, and then she did send me samples, many, many samples of his art, and said, what do you think? And I said, I am in love. I think he would do a fabulous job. So if they do get a manuscript, and let's say Claudette wrote the words and her Aunt Betty did the illustrations, they very politely either return it to you, and not all publishers return manuscripts anymore, or they just put it in the trash can, because it is a signal that that author has not done his or her homework and read books on publishing to find out. So they think, oh, what a rube. I don't want to work with a rube. They didn't do their homework. They don't know this is my job. So you don't even have to worry about it. And if you're really smart when you're writing, sure, you're going to visualize some things, but don't get married to that, because I have to say, I'm always pleasantly surprised by what my illustrators do with my words. So you don't want to get a particular style and think, oh, it has to be this. No, it doesn't. There are many styles that could bring your words to life.
Okay. So we've got Leslie Young just saying she's working on a nonfiction book right now.
Congratulations.
And then we have Sinstrick, who says she has a book done as a first draft. So I'm just going to correct you. You got a manuscript done as a first draft.
Yes. Yes.
So congratulations.
That is huge. It is huge to stick with an idea and take it through to fruition. And we'll talk more, I think, as the evening unfolds, about what to do at each step of the process.
Here's a question. Since the books get edited, why don't they disregard the punctuation?
Oh, that's a good point. Well, so we have a copy editor, and I always think those people must have been high school grammar teachers because they really know their stuff. But there's a little bit more to copy editing than just the grammar and punctuation. For instance, in one of my other book that just debuted a few months ago, it's a silly graphic book about 2 cupcakes, and they leave the bakery every morning and they go out and have adventures. Okay. And in there, I mentioned French fries. So I capitalized the F in French because that's the way I was always taught, and had a lowercase f for fries.
Right.
But the copy editor came back and said, yes, but when you use it in this context and the French fries are kind of animated and are characters, then, and see, they're privy to all kinds of other information that we've never been privy to. And not only does each house adhere to a particular style, so they refer to their style book, but then they also have to look about culturally what's happening in our world right now. Yeah, exactly. So that's a style book. And it's funny because HarperCollins can adhere to one style. Simon & Schuster might adhere to another style. And then Sleeping Bear Press might do something completely different. And you don't need to know all that. You do not have to sweat bullets over that. But I think there's a better answer to your question about punctuation. When I was teaching boys and girls, I didn't try to teach them rules about punctuation, but purpose. So as you're writing, you're adding commas or semicolons to create meaning. That's the whole purpose of punctuation, is so someone reads, pauses, exclaims, whatever, to take away the meaning that you're trying to put on the page.
Mhm.
So you have to understand enough about punctuation to do it correctly. So when that agent or editor reads your words, he or she is going to read it with the inflection and the tone that you intend. So you don't have to be a mad scientist about it. Like I said, you can read other children's books and notice structures, and you can teach yourself what you need to know.
Okay. Um, why don't you tell us about your writing process? I'd like to know about that.
Well, it changes. It changes as you grow and age. It changes as you publish.
Well, okay, before you tell us, then back up for a minute and tell us how you found time to write when you were teaching full time, had two boys to take care of, a husband, and manage a home. Tell us how you found time to do all of that, and then
Okay.
come and
Well,
tell
the
us
big the
right.
big secret is that I never wrote during the school year. But what I did do during the school year is I put a lot of information in my writer's notebooks. And a writer's notebook is your very first step, no matter if you're on fire with an idea or you're just collecting ideas. So, what kinds of things go into a writer's notebook? Well, you could be driving down the road and see the cutest name for like a hairstyle salon. And you could think, oh my gosh, that is darling. You just want to add that to your writer's notebook. Maybe you'll never use that exact name, but it reminds you that names and titles of things carry meaning and set a tone in your writing. Or maybe you overhear a snippet of conversation where two people are really angry at each other, and you notice that neither one of them finishes a sentence, that their language is clipped, and you won't write the whole conversation, but you're going to write 2 or 3 lines of that. It's a great reminder because a lot of people, when they first start to write, and they write dialogue, it
Mhm.
is so formal. It's not the way we really speak to
Not
each
how we
other.
really speak. Yeah.
If Denise and I get on the phone and we talk, we're talking fast. I'm finishing one of her sentences. She's finishing one of mine. We're talking at
You're
the same
interrupting
time.
each other.
And that really, you want to see that, especially if you're writing a middle grade or a YA novel, or you're writing the great American novel. You have to make sure your dialogue is authentic. So that goes into a writer's notebook. Most authors have like the first half of a writer's notebook just reserved for ideas. And ideas come from so many different places. I mean, I've had ideas pop into my head for a nonfiction book when I'm working in my garden. I've observed 2 toddlers at a playground and had an idea for a book. And so you don't have to write like a bunch, a paragraph. You just have to write enough to remind you into your writer's notebook. And then the lady that just asked about punctuation, it is so cool because if you have a writer's notebook and you happen to be reading a picture book and you notice how the person used the commas in a series. So when she said she picked pansies, daisies, and lilies, and you thought, okay, I've never really known how to punctuate that, you just copy that little thing in the very back of your writer's notebook. And that's a little thing you can refer to later. So I always do that. Like when I find something that I finally understand, I put it in the back of my current writer's notebook, and it's just a reminder for me.
I
So
want to
go
stop
ahead.
for a second. I want to back up because I think it's important that people hear what you said. So I did put in a little note at the bottom, and I'm missing some questions because I was trying to get that in. But the writer's notebook, you said, is the very first step.
Yeah,
That writer's notebook can be anything. It can be a notebook, something like this, that you just keep in your purse and you're able to jot things down.
right.
Listen to people as they are around you and you take notes on what you hear, what you see, different names and
It can be on your phone. You can have a notepad. Right here can be your traveling writer's notebook.
great idea. So that's where it all starts. And then you didn't do any writing during the school year. You just
Right,
filled out your notebook. And then in the summer, when you had time off, was when you
right.
had time to write. There was something else I wanted to address and I forgot. But okay, so there was that. And then there's another question about Tips. Oh, here it is. Tips on finding an editor. And then this one, if the what if the illustrator doesn't create this character the way you imagined them? So there's
Does or does not. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, and sometimes it's a wonderful surprise. Now, like I said, if you're really smart, after you kind of get used to writing, you don't envision in such a definite way in your head that you're not open to possibilities.
Mhm.
I had a friend, though, years ago who wrote a beautiful piece of historical fiction. So, and then the artist did it in a very abstract, modern way, all the illustrations. And I have to say that maybe the editor didn't do a great job at selecting someone because, you know, it was set in southern Indiana during the time of slavery and with the slave catchers, and yet to have all this modern stilted art, it did not match. And I don't blame her. She was heartbroken. I have never been heartbroken. I mean, I've been very fortunate. It doesn't happen very often. I wrote a silly book for young children who are just learning to read independently called Loose Tooth. And
Mhm.
in there, now there is a dog, but it's saying that the child shows his loose tooth to his friend Harry. I'm sorry to say, I'm kind of forgetting the name. And I thought it was going to be a friend, but instead the illustrator drew him lying flat on the floor on his tummy, wiggling his tooth for his dog, his dachshund, which I loved. I absolutely loved. So sometimes, like I say, you have an idea, but they have a different idea and it works. So again, usually an editor will consult with you, like I
Mhm.
said, show you 2 or 3, 4 options, and you can get a feel for their other art or what's in their portfolio. So usually there aren't a lot of those heartbreaking moments in our industry.
Okay. So here's a question from Sinstrick, and she wants to know, do you have any tips on finding an editor?
Um, Marketing is a huge job. I would say that once, and I wouldn't, this is going to sound odd, but just because you have one manuscript completed, I wouldn't worry right away about marketing that one. I would write another and another for a couple of reasons. Number one, you improve in your craft. The more you write, the better you become. I mean, it's just like anything else in life. And two, if you're going to then submit, it's nice to have more than just one thing because there's nothing worse than finishing one manuscript, sending it to 2 or 3 publishing houses or particular editors you think it might be a good fit for, and then just waiting and waiting and waiting for a response. That's a lot of downtime, especially when you're an unknown. It can be as short as 3 to 4 weeks. It can be as long as 8 to 9 months. And so you don't want to be
Or
just
you hear
sitting,
back?
yep, before you hear anything. And so you want to be a writer continuously. So you send your baby out in the world, and then one day you're kind of surprised to hear a response because you're so engulfed in what you're working on right now. So, how do you find them? There is a market guide that comes out every year. It's been coming out for many, many years, and you can find it at your local libraries typically. And it is just for children's books, or there's a market guide just for adult books, and they cover the magazine market, the book market. They tell you which publishing houses are open to unsolicited submissions, which means you don't have an agent and you're just submitting it to them because you want to get published. So only some houses are open, some are closed. A great way to be able to submit is to start, now that the pandemic is easing up, is to go to writers' conferences.
Mhm.
When editors speak at those, at the end of his or her talk, the editor will say, usually we're closed to submissions, but if you put this code on your manila envelope, it will come to me. I am open for the next 2 months. And really, a lot of good connections are made that way. But
Yes.
I do want to forewarn you, the last thing you ever want to do is go to a writer's conference and follow an editor around, corner
Into
him
the
or her.
bathroom.
Yes, and it happened to me, not to me, but I witnessed it
Yes.
happening to an editor in a bathroom, and say, just quickly read this and tell me what you think. And that is so wrong on so many levels. First of all, they don't like stalkers, but because you have invested hopefully hours and days of work, why would you want to reduce that to someone quickly reading your words and just quickly telling you what they think? It is demeaning to you and to your profession
And rude.
to do that. So the best ways are through the market guide. If you're writing for children, there is a website, CBC, the Children's Book Council, and at the bottom of their homepage, they have, oh, what do you call those things that rotate? I know this word, but I can't think of it.
Carousel.
A what?
Carousel?
No, but I mean electronically, the page goes on, the banner goes on. But anyway, they have this banner at the bottom and it is all publishers, and you can stop it and click on any, and they will tell you if they're open to submissions, what kinds of things they're looking for. So the Children's Book Council, their homepage is a great place to find submissions. And there's two organizations. There's CBI, which is the Children's Book Insider. This group, I think their dues, I want to say, are 40 or 50 a year. They're not very much. And you get an electronic newsletter each month. And what's really cool in their newsletter is they always feature at least one editor and one agent who are open to receiving submissions. Always.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very handy. So that's the Children's Book Insider. And then, of course, there is SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, which is worldwide. And they have a newsletter that comes electronically every other month. And they do have in the back of that where they talk about marketing and editors and agents, but they also have articles on the craft and on different genres. So, I know I've been talking.
I've been trying to keep up, like,
those are really the main ways. You have to, like I said, marketing takes a lot of time at the beginning of your career, and you have to spend a lot of time just looking at all the, not just where to send it, but going to the library and pulling, if you're writing picture books, and this is something Denise was excellent at, pulling 50 of them off the shelf, looking at them and going, ooh, I like this one. I like the style of this, and looking, who's the publisher of that book? Because you want to match your writing style to a publishing house's style. And believe me, they have them. And sometimes if it's a large house like Simon & Schuster or HarperCollins, they have what are called imprints. So these are like divisions under the main umbrella. And each imprint has kind of a different tone or a different culture. But you can learn so much from just reading and in your writer's notebook, listing the publishers that you feel this kinship with, that you feel, I think we'd be a good match.
yes.
So,
I wanted to pop this up just because I happen to see it, and I'm trying to, and I'm not being rude when I'm like looking over here. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. And Nina Medina says that I don't want to talk about her grammar. I want to talk about the fact that she's bilingual.
uh-huh.
What are your suggestions for someone who's bilingual and when it comes to writing for children? Because I thought she got to be a hot commodity.
Yes, Nina, you have got it made in the shade right now. So I just have to tell you, I'm at our younger son's home right now, and his wife is from Chile. And she is a bilingual lady, and she is a writer, and she's a filmmaker. And I'm always so impressed with her grammar and her punctuation skills because this is her second language. But right now, publishers are looking to work with people from different cultures, people from all the races, all the ethnicities, because, of course, we want all children to see themselves in books, especially in picture books. We want them to have many, many books where they can say, oh, this character looks just like me, or here's a splash of Spanish. I know those words. So, yes, if it's difficult for you, find a friend that will work with you. Sometimes, not all, but a lot of children's librarians at the public libraries, they are such great people. And, you shouldn't ask for it for free, but you can Say, I've got this manuscript. I'm a little weak in the grammar and punctuation areas because this is my second language. Um, I would like to know if you could help me. And in turn, here is a gift certificate for $50 to this restaurant or whatever. I would just find someone. I would not worry. I think that the more you write and the more you work with someone, and the more you're around people and listen to language and read English, all that will come in time. But your ideas, what you have to offer to literature, that's the most important part. It really is. Good luck.
Yeah. So, Blue Skies, I'm going to give away our apron note within the next minute or two. So, if you could let me know who the winner is for that. And I want to, before I'll bring your question back up, I'm going to take it off for a second. But for those of you that are just joining us, this video is sponsored by my online apron boutique, Apron Diva. And one of the things we give away on every show and we put in every order is an apron note. And the apron note is like a little message to the homemaker because so often homemakers don't feel appreciated. And so we want them to feel like it's a message from their dearest friend. And today's apron note is what you do matters. What you do matters. So Lola, while the chat is going to be telling us what this apron note, how it resonates with them, and Blue Skies is going to be pulling a name from the chat.
Right.
How does it resonate with you?
Oh, yeah. What we do does matter.
One and they'll get one.
I think, first of all, sometimes people think we are only talking about major things. Well, I volunteered and helped build this church in such and so country. That's admirable. That's amazing. That's a great contribution. But something I always did when I go into schools that I'm invited in as a visiting author or whatever, from this time I cross the threshold, every child I pass, I'll say something like, good morning. Oh, your blue shoes are really bright, aren't they? Or good morning. I really like that scarf you have on. I'm trying to just make that child, for that brief moment, feel good about himself or herself. I do believe that everything we put out in the universe, from the smallest thing to the largest thing, matters. And it changes our culture, whether it's our culture in our home, in our community, in our country. I think it's all extremely important. So if you are a homemaker, because I was a homemaker for many, many, many years, I think everything we do, all those little touches that we do for our children, for our husband, for ourselves, that make our home that loving, safe place, it all matters.
Exactly. So people will be talking in the chat about what it means to them, but the winner, that little bing announced the winner, and the winner is Nina Medina. So Nina Medina, you're the winner of the apron note. So what you'll want to do is send me your mailing address, and you're going to want to send it to my email. And this is my email address right here, thisandthatwithdenise@gmail.com. Don't put it in the chat because that's public. You want to send me your mailing address to this email, and then I'll send it to Lola, and then she will mail you out your book. I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's okay.
Apron note. So send me your mailing address and I will mail you your apron note. And then Lola, you will get an apron note too, because as I say.
Oh, I like that.
Yes. And then I also want to correct you just a little bit.
Good.
You used to be a homemaker. You still are.
I am.
Home today for you and your husband.
I do. And I actually take it pretty seriously. But I was thinking about when the boys were home and during the pandemic, it's funny, you kind of felt like everything was on hold, although I was trying several new recipes and stuff just to kind of keep myself excited.
Did you learn to make sourdough?
No, I don't make sourdough because I eat gluten-free now. But, I don't think about it as much calling it homemaking, but you're absolutely right. I still enjoy it.
Right. And we're in a different place in our life right now. I'm making a home today, but we're empty nesters. It's just me and Will. So,
yeah.
Okay. There was another question from somebody. Here's one. This is a reply to the apron note. And she said it reminds her that children will not remember the expensive gifts but they will remember the smell of dinner as they came home or the clean smell of sheets. So yes,
Mhm.
that's definitely good. And then Patricia says, this conversation is so informative in so many ways. Thank you.
I'm glad.
Now, this is a good comment here. So, Sinstrick said she never thought to have more than one book idea ready. So now you know, Sinstrick, you want to work on that second and third manuscript to keep that going.
And I want to throw something in here. I write both fiction and nonfiction. I write picture books. I write easy readers. Now, there are people, and this is wonderful for them, who kind of write the same kind of book. And I'm just one of those people that I see this and I have an idea. I hear this and I have an idea. And I enjoy the variety. It's the variety. So I usually have 2 or 3 projects that I'm working on simultaneously. I don't work on all 2 or 3 of those each and every day, but I'm bringing them up. And this sounds goofy, but sometimes I'm just really in the mood to write something silly. So I work on my silly thing. But other days, I'm just all about that nonfiction piece. And then this is so cool when you're working on 2 or 3 things simultaneously, as one starts to, you can tell it's coming together. You've probably, if it's a picture book, you've probably revised it 25 times. And you can tell that it's crystallizing and it's changed quite a bit from that first draft. And then once it gets to that stage, I become obsessive with it. It's like everything else falls away and I live it and I breathe it. And I'm thinking about it when I'm doing dishes. I'm thinking about it in the shower. Even when I'm sleeping, things come to me until it's ready to go. I personally, but this is not everyone's process, just like to have that variety going. It just keeps me energized as a writer because sometimes you do hit a brick wall with a manuscript and you just don't want it to make you get upset or frustrated with writing. You can say, this just needs a little bit more time, a little bit more thinking. I'll come back to this in a week. And you let it simmer. And believe it or not, when you come back to it a week or 2 weeks later, it's like, whoa, I know what to do with this.
Let's talk about this. There was a question earlier about the estimated cost of publishing a book. So let me write that down real quick so I don't forget. I want you to talk about your process.
Yeah, because we kind of stopped on the writing notebook.
Yeah. So tell me about your process and when is your butt actually in the chair? And the reason why I say that or ask that is because I want people to know that one of the things that I learned about writing is that it's 5% inspiration and it's 95% perspiration, and the butt's got to be in the chair. So let's talk about when your butt is in the chair.
Well, it varies, of course, with everything else. But let's say that Ted and I are at home. It's a week where I'm not going anywhere, like to a new grandbaby's house. Then I would say I spend between 3 to 6 hours every day physically writing. So that is time, but in chair. However, I do a lot of mental writing. So if I'm out pruning a bush, the fact is being outside and doing something manual or taking a long walk, that's when I work out those crinkly parts, those frustrating parts. Or I'm thinking, wow, this needs a much stronger ending. It has to show the big picture. Take a step back. It's usually while I'm doing something. So, and I read that years ago. You need to come to the computer or the written page ready to go. In other words, if you haven't been thinking about your writing and you just sit down, there's going to be a few lost moments and maybe a few lost hours.
Yes.
And another great tip that I read years ago was that when you are on a roll, and especially if you're writing middle grade or YA or the great American novel, and you're just writing and writing, stop. Stop when you know what the next scene is. So it makes you so eager the next day to get back to it and keep on going. Don't wait till you hit a wall to stop. No. And one more tip. Sometimes right before I go to sleep at night, I sit cross-legged in the bed with my notebook. And whatever I've been working on, if I do have a question after I've showered and brushed the teeth and all those kinds of good things, I just take a few minutes to start working on it in my notebook. I can't tell you how many good things. And then I can shut that notebook, put it on my nightstand. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh yeah, I can hardly wait to get to my writing today. So writing is an all-consuming thing. But if you are raising children and you are working part-time or full-time, what you have to do is set aside. You have to say every Tuesday night, we can start just with one evening between 7 and 9 p.m. I'm going into this room, and it can be a closet. It doesn't need to be a fancy room. And you tell your family, I am unavailable. These are my 2 hours. And then in a few weeks, you could say to them, every Tuesday and Thursday night, I'm going in this room and shutting the door, and I'm unavailable. You have to teach yourself that discipline, but you also have to teach your family that discipline, that this is so important to you that you're not willing that after everything else gets done, every single day of your life, maybe if there's 5 minutes, you get to write. It becomes part of your schedule. It becomes part of your day. But to start out trying to make it a part of 7 days a week, that's a huge jump for anyone. So that's why I say start out with one evening or one morning. It can be as soon as, if you have children who do go off to school, it might be after the children are off to school and hubby's in his office working, and you might take the 2 hours then. I have one more cool thing to share with you. So I've been doing workshops online for people who want to write and publish for children. And at one of those 2 months ago, Robin, who lives in Maryland, told us this great thing. She had attended a conference, and a writer had said, make sure you create before you consume. And what that means, and it is brilliant advice. So many of us get caught up with looking on Twitter or Facebook or checking our text and making sure we've answered all of our texts, or we look at the news on TV or whatever. That just takes you out, takes you down, takes you out of the writing mode. So if you do your creative work first, and then you do your consuming of that later, oh my gosh, you're going to have much more beneficial days, productive days, and you're going to be pleased with how your career is moving, or just your love of writing.
I agree completely with that. And I have another little tip to offer too.
Good.
It's one that I feel like is, don't talk about your writing to other people. It's one thing if, let's say, me and you and Kathy and some of the others are in a group and we're talking about a new project and we're bouncing off ideas. But don't share your writing ideas with someone else, not because they're going to steal your idea, but because by the time you've talked it all out and talked it through with someone else, in your head, you've written it, and then you never get to putting it on paper.
I agree. And it deflates it. Somebody compared that to a balloon, that you've got this great idea and it's a balloon. And every time you share it with someone, you've poked it with another pin until at the end, it's all deflated. And the other thing is, if you're sharing this with people who are not serious writers, the reaction you get can deflate you.
Yes.
So they'll go, well, I don't really get that. Or they'll say, well, I don't think that'd make a book. But if they're not familiar with children's literature, no offense to that person, they don't know what they're talking about. Right. So then you're bouncing it off someone that can't give you viable feedback.
Okay, here's a question here. And we got a bunch of them, all those bing, bing, bing. So, okay. Is there a contract that is signed with the publisher, and how soon does one typically receive their first paycheck?
That's a great question. So,
yes.
In today's world, what typically happens? The editor either emails you or calls you and says, oh, I'm madly in love with this. I'd like to offer you a contract. If you do not have an agent at that time, it's a great way to get an agent, because at least now you've got a publisher there. And so you could go to an agent or two or three and say, so-and-so is offering me a contract. Would you please negotiate this for me? Or if you decide to negotiate your own, just don't do it cold turkey. There is a book out, Curtis. I'm trying to remember if his first name is James, but you can find it. It's Curtis, and it's how to be your own literary agent.
Blue Sky, put that in the chat, please. Say that again.
Okay. So Curtis Brown is one of the largest literary agencies in New York City. And one of the founding fathers wrote this book. And I'm not saying this is the exact title, but it's something like How to Be
You'll find it.
Your Own Literary Agent. Oops, excuse me. I'm trying to type on a higher surface.
Oh, she'll find it. You don't have to do it. She'll find it.
And so in that it is great because, okay, the very first book contract that was ever offered to me was for a teacher book by Scholastic. And the editor actually called me on a Sunday to offer it. And so this is years and years and years ago. And so it was real cute. She said, how about your advance of $2,000? And of course, I'm thrilled. I just want to publish a book. So I'm like, okay. She goes, okay, Lola, stop. I need to educate you. She goes, an editor will always offer you a certain amount. They're going to lowball you. And then you come back with a higher amount. She goes, now I want you to practice. So I said, okay, I want $5,000. And she said, okay, now this is what the editor will say. That's a little more than I can afford. How about 3? And then you come back and I said, how about 3,500? And she said, deal. And she said, that's what you need to do. Well, this book explains that. But in today's publishing world, what's really tricky are all the rights, electronic rights, audio rights. So TV rights, plush toy rights, depending on what you're writing.
Remember the story I used to tell about Jane from Tarzan when we would be in the writers group?
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, like there used to be this story, this movie, there's this whole series of books by Edgar Rice Burroughs about Tarzan. And the lady that played Jane in the movie, she was talking to one of her agents about one of her new contracts. And she says, what's this TV thing? And he said, oh, it's nothing you need to worry about. Tarzan was on TV and all kinds of other rights came out. And she didn't get a cent for any of that money because she didn't have that in her contract. She didn't know what it was. So that TV thing, don't worry about it.
Right. Now, publishers aren't out to do you harm or to take advantage of you. There is what is called a boilerplate contract. And in that, they would give you so much for paperback rights, so much for, right. Like so many of my young books for young readers are now on phone apps and things of that ilk. And I actually get royalties from that. And so they offer you something, but if you do have an agent, you're going to get 5 to 10% more. I'm telling you right now. But this book tells you exactly how to negotiate. So it was like 2 months before I got my agent because I was unagented for my first 13 years. And an editor was going to call me to negotiate a contract, and it was with HarperCollins. So I read the pages, I bookmarked the pages, and I was ready for the phone call. And I got everything from the advance was more, the paperback rights were more, and I negotiated, what do they call those things? After you sell like 25,000 books, then you get a bigger proportion of the sales than you did for the first 25. And I did all of those, and acceleration, that's what it's called.
Okay.
So this little book, it's a Bible. It is a great little Bible.
And here it is on the screen. Blue Skies, I typed it in there for us.
Okay. So someone asked how soon you get paid. So after you negotiate the contract, it varies between houses. The bigger houses, sometimes you will wait 5 to 6 months for their contract department, because they're doing thousands of books, to finally get your contract to you. And when you get the contract to sign and then you send it back, then you usually get half of your advance. Or if they've already accepted your book and they don't want any revisions, you get your full advance. Advances vary. So for a picture book, for a first-time person, an advance could be as low as $2,500. If they thought it was a highly marketable book to be, then they might offer you $8,000 or $10,000 advance. What that means is after the book becomes a book, and that takes a while when it's a picture book, it usually takes between 2 and 4 years for the art and for all the production to be done. When it's out in the world and selling, you don't get any royalties until you earn back that advance. They're going to send you statements twice a year. And so if they've given you $5,000, until you earn back that $5,000, you don't get any new money. Things that can help you earn back your advance if they sell international rights. So I've already gotten for this book a letter that China purchased a whole bunch of these so they could translate it. So that's working against my advance so that I'll earn, it's called earning out. I'll earn out sooner because of that kind of thing. You will see your book, like I said, if it's a picture book, from the day you sign the contract, it will be In a lucky world, 2.5 years. In
Hmm.
a normal world, more like 4 years later. I've waited as long as 7.5 years to see my book from signing the contract, although this one would probably be more like 8.5.
Okay.
I've had friends who have waited 15 years. So that's why I'm saying you can't put all your eggs in one manuscript. You have to be writing and writing and writing, because even after you start selling, you can't sit around for 5 years waiting for your book to show up on the shelves.
Here's another one about trends.
Okay, how do we find the latest trends? Vampires, werewolves, stinking zombies. Okay, so if you listen, which I did for many years, to editors at the conferences, they say, be aware of the trends, don't try to write to the trends. So unfortunately, after Harry Potter made it big, editors were just inundated with very similar manuscripts, and none of those were going to get purchased because none of them probably were nearly as entertaining.
Yes.
And so even when we had Fancy Nancy a few years ago, then poor editors were getting all kinds of similar Fancy Nancy stories. It's really better to write what's in your heart.
Hmm.
And if you're still, into werewolves or whatever, it's the compelling story. Do you have great characterization? Do you have a plot that really works and that creates character change? All of those craft elements, that's what sells, having a rich voice, a writer's voice. So hitting the mark with a trend or not with a trend,
Hmm.
yeah, you don't want to put your career on that. You really don't.
Okay. Um,
Yeah, I have not. I saw what she was asking about Scrivener and all those. It could be because I'm a troglodyte. I don't know, but I just handwrite and type on my computer and send in my manuscripts that way. So I don't even know the benefits of those programs. I am so sorry to be uneducated. But if you find a program that seems to make it easy for you and enjoyable for you, then I'd use it.
Vicki, you said you'd love to have the book One Special Day. You can get that on Amazon. Let me just share the screen real quick because
In two different ways. It's the picture book like I have back here, but it also is in board book.
yeah, so let me just let's make
When
sure.
I read that at schools, all the young teachers who are mothers, they were sitting in the back crying. It touches their heart.
So here's her newest one, Lift Mix Fling. But
Mhm.
One Special Day, let's see if it's here.
Oh, it's on there at Amazon.
Yeah. So here it is right here. So here's One Special Day. There's a board book and
No paper on that one.
there's a board book there. So I've got the link to um, the um, the newest one, Lift Mix Fling, in the description box, but you can go through there, take a peek at that one, and then look at some of the other ones as well. So let's see, there were a bunch of questions. I think I've just missed them. I'm sorry, guys, but I just couldn't keep up with them. They were coming in so quick. Oh, the estimated cost of a book.
So I assume you're talking about the cost to a publisher because I do not self-publish. I do not know about self-publishing. I know that in some cases, depending on who works with someone who wants to self-publish, sometimes you can do print on demand, so you can only print like 10 books at a time, and it's not real costly for you. But if you do a print run of 5,000, it might cost you $10,000 or $20,000. So if you're talking, I publish traditionally, which means I sell my words to established publishers. Their cost for a picture book, it varies.
Mhm.
The illustrator usually gets paid more, a lot more than the writer. Not always, but in a lot of cases, because it's the attractiveness of the cover that
Mhm.
captures somebody's eye in the bookstore. It's those illustrations that make your words come alive. So let's pretend for just a moment that they have paid you 5,000 as an advance, and they have paid the illustrator $40,000 in advance, and then it depends on the kind of paper that's in the book, the end papers. So many different production costs go into this. I think the average cost for them for a print run of 5,000 is between $80 and $100,000. So
Mhm.
that's shipping it overseas to be printed, shipping it back, distributing it, etc. So you're right. Publishers are not interested in a one manuscript person typically because they're investing in you as a writer in your career. They're hoping if they love this one that you'll
Mhm.
submit more in the future. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Okay, let's see.
I should say that a novel is not as costly, a middle grade novel or a YA, because you don't have the artist. They just have the artist for the cover art. So the production costs are not as high.
Yeah, okay. I think those were the questions. Otherwise, I'm like, I think I got them all now. So,
Okay, there's one up there now about publishing through KDP. I'm so sorry. I don't even know what that is. And like I said, I know nothing about self-publishing. I've never gone that route. So I cannot answer questions about that. I don't know if Denise can or not. I don't think you've ever self-published, right, hon?
no, I haven't. I've never self-published either. And for those of you guys who are working, I am published too. I got a bunch of books up here, but nothing recently. I tell you what, Lola, you're inspiring me to get back at it. But I think I use up a lot of my creativity, my creative juices with YouTube.
You do.
So
Yeah.
by the time I'm done with that, but I've got some stuff on homemaking that I've been trying to put pen to paper. So yes, I'm working on that. So now Nina says she'll be doing her own illustrations since she can draw. So what are your thoughts on that?
Do you have an art degree? Would be my first question, because if you're an unknown author, so your name in the marketplace doesn't carry any weight yet. They like to partner your text with a very well-known illustrator, so it has a greater chance of making a huge buck for them and for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an art degree, and the reason I say an art degree, there's a whole bunch that goes back and forth between art directors and illustrators that I know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to know a lot of technique kinds of things. So even if you can draw well, but you don't know how to do this technique or that, or you don't know how to do it on your computer, it just depends on the project. It's a lot easier for someone to break in just selling words than sending your words and your pictures. But if you have an art degree, then they love you for picture books. If you can
Yeah.
do that blend, they're all about you.
Yeah. Okay, listen, guys, we've kept Lola on for an hour. She's got a new baby that she wants to try to get to. So let's get to the lightning round.
Oh no.
Yes, this was fun. And I tell you what, I had to really think about your questions. I called Kathy. I says, okay,
Oh no.
for tonight, I need some questions for her. Didn't call Mary because it's been a while since I've talked to her, but okay. These are just fun questions. So, okay, guys, we're doing the lightning round, and then we're going to have to let Lola go. So, skirts or jeans?
Well, it just really depends. I love them both. So I suppose in my real life right now, I wear more jeans.
Okay, texting or talking?
Oh, talking.
Library or museum?
I love those both, but I have to say libraries I'm in more often.
Okay, notebook or computer?
Notebook.
Ranger Rick or Cricket?
Cricket.
Dr. Doolittle or Dr. Seuss?
Oh, Dr. Dolittle.
The Giver or Bridge to Terabitha?
Oh, I love both of those books, and they're so different. I don't know that I could select one.
Okay.
Giver, the Giver, if
The
I
Giver.
had
I knew
to.
you were going to pick The Giver. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Okay. Mountain walk or swim at the beach?
And again, I do both of those and love those equally, but I'll say swim at the beach because I haven't done that for a while now.
I'm shocked. I just knew you would pick mountain walk.
I do that every day, but I haven't I haven't been at the beach in about 7 months, so I'm hungry to do that.
Okay. Rolling Stones or Mamas and the Papas?
Probably Rolling Stones.
And dusk or dawn?
Oh, dusk.
All right. So those are your lightning round questions. Lola, this was so much fun.
This was a blast.
This was really fun. I tell you what, we have just got to stay in touch more often.
Sounds good to me.
And it's just really been nice. And how's Ted? How's he doing?
He's healthy and happy and doing his custom woodworking. And yeah, he's delighted with life.
Well, good. You know, guys, her husband's a master woodcrafter. So, like, if you go into one of those fancy shops and you see all these fancy pieces of wood furniture that's got all these intricate carving, her husband's that kind of guy. He does that kind of stuff. Okay, so Lola, how can they connect with you? How can they?
Well, I have a webpage. It's www.lolaschaefer.com. And yes, I have consulting services where I read manuscripts. I do charge. Obviously, my time is very valuable, as is all of your time. As I said, we just finished up our last session of workshops. They began in September and ran through February. I am hoping to have maybe 2 different strands of workshops starting in August or September. One will be for beginners and one will be for those who have been writing for a little while. And they actually just contact me through the contact page on my website, and then I add them to my mailing list. So, yeah, I need to post more often. I'm just not real chatty and a great blogger, but I'm always out there working. And I do school visits, both real now starting in the fall. I'll be in person again, but I do a lot of virtual school visits right now, and I do enjoy that a lot too.
Yeah, you're pretty prolific. I'm just amazed at how much work you're able to accomplish. But
look who's talking. If you don't know Denise, you know, she's a gardener, she's a homemaker, she has been a writer and could pick up the pen and be a writer today again. She's always volunteering. She's taking care of family. She's celebrating. I mean, she's amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, listen, I'm going to close out the show, so I'm going to boot you off, and I'll see you in a minute for debriefing.
Yeah, and let me know who gets.
Oh, I forgot. We got to give away the book. Oh, I forgot. Blue Skies. Who's the book winner? I almost forgot. Thank you. Blue Skies. Who's the book winner? She's got to draw a name. She has this little like numbers.
Well, while she's drawing, we can all take a moment, and however we like to pray or talk to the universe, just hope that peace really comes to the people who are fighting for their homes right now.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I tell you, I was looking at the news earlier today and I was just like, oh my goodness. So she says, hold on just a second. Oh, I forgot to tell her. I thought I told you we were giving away a book. Okay, sorry. So
she probably still likes you.
Yes. Yes. But
so, and you can email me with a question or two about writing. I won't answer big tomes about writing, but yes, if you have a question or two, you can always email me through my website, and I'd be glad to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been so good to see you too. It really has been. The nice thing about this technology is that we can look right at each other. So I haven't done anything for a while though. So I don't talk about my writing, but one of the things I wanted to talk about though, maybe we could talk about resources. And one of the resources that I like to use is the Children's Scholastic, the dictionary.
I still use that when I have to do like a glossary for a nonfiction book or something. Yeah, I refer to that as well.
All right, that little being was the winner. So now let me see. Let me find the. Come on. It is Patricia. Where'd it go? Patricia something. Patricia Onakoya.
Nice. So well, when you send me her name and address, then Patricia, it could be a couple of days because I'm not at my home. But when I do get home and I get a mailer that's large enough for this book, I will be sending it off to you. I promise.
Yeah. So Patricia Onakoya is the winner. So Patricia, send me your mailing address via my email. And this is my email that you want to send it to. And then I will send your address to Lola, and then she will mail out your book. So
I will.
I'm so excited that you're able to get that as well. All right, Lola, I'm going to let you go, and I'll close it out, and then I'll jump back in. So thank you for joining us. Guys, was she not amazing? like I said, she is a good friend, and you can tell when we get to chat and we get to just chat, 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 and we are nonstop. But Patricia is the winner. So thank you guys. So now, one of the things that I forgot to talk about with her was the correlation between language development and with reading and writing. It is so important to your child's development that reading and language development is so important to that. Reading and also writing is important to language development. So take them to the library, get books, and then work with them with that. And then be sure to check out our Apron Diva. Check out the apron. The one back there, the Daisy, is the one on sale, 10% off. So be sure and check that out. And check out my latest video, how to budget proof, inflation proof your budget. And then people thought the show was awesome. Patricia, you are quite welcome. You know, though, that thing, that banner drives me crazy. It's like, okay, I can't look at that too long. But yes, congratulations, Patricia. And so thank you guys for jumping on tonight. Be sure and check Lola out. You can purchase a copy of her book through Amazon. I've got it linked in the description box, and many, many others. She has so many great books. I just can't tell you all the ones. All right. So I will see you guys again soon. Bye.